Hey, Crestwood, happy Wednesday to you. Hope you all are doing well today. Gosh, what a great day today is. We know God has so much in store for us, so much potential in this day for us to love God and serve each other, and I hope you have a chance to live out that potential. It's my honor to come to you today and to bring you this devotion for this Wednesday, November 23rd, just a few days from the start of Advent. And that's what I'm thinking about today. You know, we think of the season of Advent as that time of waiting and anticipation as we prepare for the coming of the Christ child. And that's primarily how we tend to approach it. It's not something that the secular world really pays attention to. They tend to focus on Christmas itself, but here in church, we look to that season, those 4 weeks of buildup, and that time where we're supposed to anticipate and wait eagerly. You know, we don't have to wait for a lot in our society these days. As I've said before, we're a society that hollers at the microwave to hurry up, and so we don't like to wait. And so that's why the discipline of waiting is so important during Advent. I know it's tendency to jump right to Christmas and jump right to the manger and to celebrate the birth of Christ, but there's something to be said for the power of waiting. And so we are called to do that, to wait expectantly for the birth of the Christ child, just as Mary is waiting expectantly. But I read a book just a couple days ago that reminded me that Advent's not just about waiting for the birth of Christ, but it's really about awaiting the second coming. It's about waiting for God to fulfill God's purpose of sending us the Messiah, the one who is meant to save us from sin, to save us from death. So just as we're awaiting the birth of Jesus, what we're really awaiting also is when Jesus comes again to bring all of creation to fulfillment. That's why it's so important to remember that Christmas only makes sense in light of Easter. That it's really the Easter that helps us understand everything else that happens in Jesus' life before that. So as we tell the story of Christmas, we tell it not just to celebrate the birth of a baby, because if that's the end of the story, then how is that different than any other birth? But to celebrate the birth of the baby who will die on a cross and be resurrected for us. And the book talked about how we really need to understand the story backwards, that we really need to understand the story from end to beginning. There is this great hymn in our hymnal called Sing My Song Backwards. And I want to read the words to you. We don't sing it a lot here because the tune's not familiar, but I want you to hear these words about how we are to hear and soak in and experience the story of Jesus Christ. The words are by a gentleman named Brian Wren, who is one of my favorite hymn writers and lyricists. So listen to these words from Sing My Song Backwards. Sing my song backwards from end to beginning, Friday to Monday, from dying to birth. Nothing is altered, but hope changes everything. Sing resurrection and peace upon earth. Whisper a hope through the shame and the agony, horror and emptiness darker than night. Visit the wounds and the failure of Calvary. Sing resurrection and bathe them in light. Gather the bones and the sinews of memory, healings and parables, laughter and strife, joy with the outcasts and love for the enemy. Breathe resurrection and dance them to life. Stretch out a rainbow from cross to nativity. Deck out the stable with shepherds and kings, angels and miracles, glory and poetry. Sing my song backwards till all the world sings. I love that line, stretch out a rainbow from cross to nativity. I love the way that Christmas reminds us not just of the hope that the Christ child brings, but how that hope will be fulfilled when we get to Easter. So as we prepare to move into this Advent season, I really hope that you wait for it in a new way. Wait for it as if we're not just waiting for the birth of a baby, but we're waiting for the birth and fulfillment of our hope that we have in God through Jesus Christ. That God's promises are good, that what God says God is going to do, God does, and the Messiah is the true fulfillment of that for each and every one of us. Remember, as we get closer to Christmas, it only makes sense in light of Easter, and that we are called to see that rainbow stretched out from cross to nativity, and to celebrate that the birth of Christ is just the beginning of the fulfillment of God's promises to each and every one of us. And those promises are, we are not alone. we do not have to be afraid, that God's love is good, God's promises are good, and the gift of Jesus Christ is real in our lives and in our world today. Let's celebrate that, Crestwood, as we prepare for Advent this season. God bless you.